Inside the towering headquarters of Sterling Dynamics, a billion-dollar technology empire where innovation fueled fortunes and mistakes cost millions, people in suits rushed across polished floors without ever noticing the silent figure who scrubbed the hallways after hours. She was the company's night cleaner, a quiet woman whose son, a 17-year-old prodigy named Marcus, studied mathematics, physics, programming, and engineering with an obsession that turned nights into dawns and headaches into breakthroughs. While executives drove luxury cars and debated market dominance, Marcus lived in a small apartment filled with second-hand textbooks, scribbled notebooks, and computer parts salvaged from recycling bins. One dreadful morning, Sterling Dynamics faced its greatest crisis. Their flagship AI financial platform had failed catastrophically, wiping out projections and threatening to erase nearly $100 million in potential revenue within days. Stockholders panicked, board members barked orders, and entire departments scrambled to contain the digital wildfire spreading across global markets. Experts worked around the clock but drowned in corrupted data, cascading algorithmic loops and memory overwrites that made no logical sense. While scrubbing fingerprint smudges from a glass wall, the cleaner overheard frightened engineers whispering about job losses and lawsuits. Later that night, she returned home and told Marcus what she had heard, not because she expected him to save the company, but because she recognized that spark in his eyes when challenged. The next evening, she took him into the building using her janitorial badge. Security barely glanced at them. No one ever expected brilliance from those who cleaned after hours. Marcus watched through a window, studying code projected across multiple screens while exhausted developers dragged their fingers through their hair. By accident, one programmer spotted him staring and sarcastically invited him in, assuming a teenager might joke and lighten the gloomy mood. They were desperate anyway. Marcus sat down quietly. He analyzed millions of lines of code faster than most people read a paragraph. The more he studied, the more the room fell silent. He discovered the failure was not in the algorithm's architecture, but in the predictive fail-safe handler, which looped diagnostics back into itself and overwrote memory pools. In under 30 seconds, he wrote a conditional gate, redirected overflow into dormant cache, and recompiled the system. Screens flickered. Logs cleared. Market stabilization simulations surged green. People stared in disbelief as the crisis reversed instantly, recovering the projected $100 million with an elegant fix no one had noticed. Engineers blinked at each other, humbled. Word traveled up the building faster than elevator cables. Executives abandoned meetings, sprinting down corridors. When the CEO arrived, stern and intimidating, he demanded to know who this teenager was. Nervous whispers filled the room. The cleaner stepped forward timidly, revealing Marcus was her son. A ripple of laughter rolled through the crowd, mocking, dismissive, born of privilege, but the CEO slapped silence into the air. He demanded Marcus explain the solution. Calm and articulate, Marcus described the logic step by step. The CEO's eyes widened with astonishment, then gratitude. He turned to his staff and declared, "Fire anyone who laughed, and hire this boy immediately." Gasps echoed like thunder. Instead of mocking status, the CEO crushed arrogance. He offered Marcus a paid internship, full scholarship, mentorship from top innovators, and public recognition for his brilliance. Most importantly, he turned to the cleaner, bowed his head slightly, and thanked her for raising greatness in the shadows. From that day forward, employees who once ignored her greeted her with respect, held open doors, and treated her dignity as something precious. Marcus soared through the company, designing protections for financial systems, encryption safeguards, and predictive models that saved millions more. International media reported the story, a janitor's son who solved what seasoned engineers could not. Investors returned with doubled trust. School invitations requested lectures. Scholarships poured in. Years passed, and Sterling Dynamics held a ceremony honoring unsung talent. They launched an initiative in Marcus's name, designed to find hidden prodigies among underestimated backgrounds. Cameras flashed. Applause thundered. But Marcus remained the same quiet genius who believed brilliance grows in unlikely places. When asked how he solved the impossible crisis in seconds, he answered, "My mother taught me that real cleaning removes the dirt no one else sees. I just cleaned code." His story spread across social media, schools, and tech forums, inspiring millions who felt invisible. People began to believe that greatness doesn't ask where you come from. It only demands how hard you're willing to rise. And right now, as you watch and feel that fire spark inside you, listen carefully. Do not underestimate yourself because others ignore your shine. You may be invisible today, but tomorrow the world might beg for your signature. If you want more thrilling, motivating stories like this that awaken your ambition and push you toward destiny, months after saving Sterling Dynamics, Marcus found himself navigating a new world where every department whispered his name with equal parts admiration and disbelief. Interns secretly followed him through hallways, hoping a fragment of his genius might rub off, while executives watched him with nervous curiosity, aware that brilliance often rewrites hierarchies. Yet despite the sudden attention, Marcus remained grounded, still taking late-night rides home with the cleaner who raised him, quietly absorbing life lessons about humility and focus. One morning, the company faced a new threat, a cyber attack more advanced than anything its security division had ever seen. Systems flickered, sensitive data warped, and alarms blared across the facility as financial markets trembled outside. Experts swarmed like bees in panic, but every defensive script they deployed was bypassed instantly. The CEO summoned Marcus without hesitation. Entering the command center, the teenager studied the code like a general reading enemy formations, realizing this attack wasn't random. It was personal, launched by a rival corporation desperate to sabotage Sterling's newfound dominance. Marcus closed his eyes to think, ignoring the chaos around him, and wrote a counter-algorithm that not only isolated the intrusion but traced its origin, locking the attacker inside their own digital prison. With a keystroke, the threat vanished, and the room exhaled like lungs filling with breath after drowning. Applause roared, but Marcus raised his hand, insisting the victory belonged to every exhausted worker who refused to surrender. The CEO smiled proudly, announcing a promotion that stunned the company. Marcus would now lead a special innovations division dedicated to anticipating future threats. Whispers of envy spread, but deeper than envy was inspiration. Everyone sensed they were witnessing the rise of a legend. As cameras documented the moment, Marcus glanced at the cleaner peacefully dusting a corner, and his heart swelled with gratitude. For those watching, remember this truth. Genius isn't luck. It's discipline, humility, and courage. Subscribe now for the next chapter of this incredible journey, because greatness continues.